to get the younger trade today and ask them to turn around and make these shoes, they would look at you in wonder and amazement and wondered what you was talking about. Because it's right outside their idea of doing things, and it's altogether different.
Joe McBain, for 60 years, a skilled craftsman. The skills of a craftsman aren't acquired easily. It takes discipline, dedication, and hard work. Clay, fibre, glass and metal are among traditional craft materials, but they're not always put to traditional use. Some craftsmen use their skills as have generations before them. Others give traditional materials new interpretation, new meaning. When Joe McBain was apprenticed in 1916, there were 2 or 3 general blacksmith shops in every small Australian town. And shoeing horses was only half the blacksmith's work. Iron wheels for buggies, decorative wrought iron, farm implements, crowbars, and pickaxes. The town blacksmith made and repaired them all.
This is an old-time pick, and it's been badly laid and steeled in the first place, therefore the end is all shattered. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to double this end back and weld it and bring it back a solid pick. Well, I've always made my own shoes and made them because I use them for a special purpose. A machine-made shoe is not made for that special purpose. Therefore, they're not nearly as good or as handy as my own blacksmith-made shoes. Now, you can see by the advantage of this, me putting my own fuller mark in around the shoe, I can put it in deep or I can put it in shallow, which means that I can, when I come to punch me holes in this, I can put me holes in where I want them to go, which will suit the foot of the horse. So therefore, this is your advantage of a blacksmith-made shoe.
Melbourne stained glass artist David Wright gives the traditional medium of glass a new emphasis. David Wright's work reflects his view of nature. Not so much the world we see around us, rather what can be seen of nature through a microscope. The pattern of microscopic cells that make up the threads of life.
I became a stained glass artist by accident, really. I used to receive commissions while I was doing architecture, and then when I graduated, I had enough commissions to carry on, and well, I've been doing stained glass full-time for about 6 years now. My work is solitary and fairly exacting. I work to a full-scale line drawing of the design, cutting the pieces of glass directly from stencils cut from the drawing. Accuracy, of course, is of paramount importance. Having cut all the glass, which may be 600, 700 pieces, I start leading the design. This is something like assembling a giant jigsaw puzzle. If you're a fraction out all the way down, cutting each piece of glass, then at the end you'll find that the glass and the panel is half an inch too long, and of course it won't fit into the space. A stained glass artist has to be a particularly patient individual because each job takes so long. Each joint has got to be soldered and putty's got to be pushed under each piece of lead around each piece of glass. And then because stained glass has two sides to it, the whole process has to be repeated on the other side. I work in glass because it has that delicate, momentary transparency. Glass emits a life of its own and gives a feeling of floating and of suspension, which is essentially what I'm trying to capture in my work.
In Lilija Duks' work, we see the skill and creativity of a master weaver, as well as centuries of tradition and history.
In Latvia, handloom weaving is highly regarded. The country people used to weave their own materials for everyday use and for decorative purposes. I myself was educated in the capital city in an applied art school. It took me 4 years to become an art weaver, and after another 8 years of experience and more exams, I became a handloom master weaver. Weaving is not complicated, but there are so many techniques and so much to know. To thread a loom just one way, it takes me 3 days, 8 hours a day. At first you have to thread the warp, then to read the warp, then you have to tie the shafts in a certain order to the pedals, and as you weave you have to pedal the pedals in a certain sequence. I do 2 types of weaving: traditional Latvian design that I sell only to my countrymen here in Australia, and my own designs that I base on Latvian themes. My own work is a combination of themes and patterns and techniques that would never be used at the same time by a traditional weaver.
Lilija Duks' rugs are now well known among weavers. She is asked to exhibit in many exhibitions. But for 26 years, her work was unknown outside Australia's Latvian community.
Australia has been very good to me, and I'm very happy I came. The only regret is it took so many years for my craft and my knowledge to be recognized. I could have done so much more in weaving to this country.
The crafts aren't concerned only with making objects we can use. Greg Wain uses clay to express ideas. His plates and boxes of objects that he assembles are reflections of how Greg Wain sees the world.
I suppose a lot of people think I live in the bush because I'm a potter, and that's where potters tend to live. That's probably where they get their ideas from, etc. I don't particularly get my ideas from the bush at all. I like living here. It's a pleasant area to live. My main inspiration is large cities, which working with and work well, the vibrancy and decadence that go hand in hand there. All my work's concerned with contradiction. For instance, in this plate, we've got a pear, which is traditionally a symbol of fertility and life. The image of a pear here, which has got some quite nice surfaces, contrasts with this large black pear, which black being a symbol of death. same thing applies in the boxes. In this one we've got Peruvian mummified body, or the image of one, with its bound legs up around the head. And we've got the broken foot in clay in the bottom, and the rope. My other plates, the ones without objects, try to make as simply for the aesthetics. The colour and shapes and the quality of the clay are the main things in those works.
For Melbourne potter Victoria Howlett, each new pot is a challenge. Each a considered individual piece.
Colour, to me, is such an exciting thing. There are so many colours in rocks and earths and clays from all over the place that potters can use to colour their glazes with. And I collect these wonderful colours and mix them up and make them into glazes and use the pots, I suppose, as vehicles for making paintings. For me, pots don't just happen, they're very deliberate things. I think about what I'm doing a great deal. I've done lots and lots of drawings. I've kept every one of them for reference. All the pots that I make are very thoroughly thought out from the beginning. With the bird pots, I'll go down to the beach or to the hills and do quite a few drawings of birds, and then a little bit later I'll translate those sketches into the materials that I'll use. And sometimes that can take quite some time. In fact, the painted bird pots took about 12 months from the first drawings of the birds on the beach to the simple strokes on the pot. My pots are a culmination of 1,000 things. My travels in Africa, the time I spent in London. When you look around the studio, there's the work of perhaps 10 different people, but really they're all me, just different moods. No matter how much you prepare, you never know how a pot's going to turn out. Potting takes a lot of discipline, dedication, and a lot of patience.